Okay, I'd like to call Policies and Priorities Committee meeting for Monday, January 11th, 2021 to order. Approval of the agenda, please. Councillor Norbury.
That's all items in the January 11th, 2021 Policies and Priorities Committee meeting agenda be approved as presented.
Seconder. Councillor Majinski. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Adoption of minutes, November 9th, 2020, Policies and Priorities Committee meeting minutes. Recommendation, please. Councillor Norbury.
That the Monday, November 9th, 2020 Policies and Priorities Committee meeting minutes be adopted as presented.
Seconder. Councillor Majinski. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Any business arising from the minutes, Council? Staff? Thank you. Moving on to consent agenda. Recommendation, please. Councillor Kurkalka.
Good, all items that January 11th, 2021 consent agenda be moved for information.
Seconder. Councillor Norbury. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Any items council would like to lift off the consent agenda for discussion? Councillor Norbury.
Thank you, Mayor. 6.3.
Discussion. Seconder. Councillor Majinski. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Councillor Norbury.
Thank you, Mayor Bertrand. So upon reading this, I see, there's a few things I think we have to think about when we are looking at this. Firstly, this originally was a contract went out for bid, right? Went out for RFP, so like this number was placed in by the people at the time. So that sort of does make sense to why it was a static amount. I mean, you have to be competitive with these things if you want to win the bid. That being said, though, they're asking for 5.5%, which wouldn't even keep up with inflation over the past 7 years. So I think when we're looking at the renewal, that should come into our considerations when we're looking at renewal time if we choose to renew with the GO.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments? Councillor Kirby.
Thank you, Mayor Bertrand. I think we got two options. It's either to move this to budget deliberations or authorize the increases. And I'd like to move that we authorize the increases on the next application and move forward with them running the visitor center.
Okay. That's by way of a motion.
Yes.
Seconder. Councillor Norbury. Discussion. Councillor Howe.
So, aren't there other options for us here besides? Can we go into an RFP again? Saying that this is our only option and that's what we're voting on is false, because there are other options. So, like tonight, this is first heard, first time you read it, and we make a decision on it again tonight. We started down this road before where we read something and then immediately we make a decision on it. Where usually we get correspondence, we read it, we think about it, especially at the PETITIONs meeting, and then we discuss it moving forward on a later agenda. Not the first time you read it, you make a decision, like a budgetary decision. So I would not vote in favor of this at this point.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Thompson, so as far as this correspondence goes, they are requesting an increase for the renewal. The original contract 3 years ago, can you explain the renewal process, please?
Thank you, Mayor Bertrand, through council. So there is a clause in the agreement with the renewal option, and if the operator wishes to renew this agreement, the operator may, by providing notice to the district at least 60 days before the expiry date of the term, request a renewal of the agreement. So the Geopark had come in December, and they followed up with the letter that is coming to the next council meeting. So council does have an option to renew the contract, and so we bring a report back to council at the next meeting. We'd probably have to bring it to the next council meeting because we need a little bit of time to create a report on options for the renewal, or if you do want to go out to RFP from what we're hearing from council.
Okay, so is this motion valid then today at our P&P, or should we be discussing this at another time?
You can, I feel that now that there's more discussion on it, that it should come to a council meeting to discuss for the renewal of the contract or RFP for staff to prepare a report, because the contract renewal is due, I think, February 9th.
Okay,
So the council is wishing to go forward with contract renewal. We can bring a report to council before then,
okay,
for the February 1st.
okay. Councilor Kirkcalka?
Yeah, so just on that, my understanding is they still have 2021 to 2022, right? They still have one more year.
No, their contract, their contract will be complete February 9th of this year.
Councilor?
So the amount set out at 150,000 annually, is that not what the district gets to run the Vic Center, and that's why it's flipped over to the Geopark? There's an amount that we get from Tourism BC that is given to the district, I believe comes to the district, and then we offset it back to whoever's running the Vic Center, whether it was the Chambers or right now the Geopark, previous other tenants. The district used to run it on their own. There's an amount that Tourism BC gives us. I believe we flip that amount back to, this time it would be the Tumblr Global Geopark. Is that $150,000?
Ms. Thompson?
I'm not aware of that amount. I could find out for you, but that's not one item that I know about, sorry.
Thank you. Councilor Norbury?
Thank you, Mayor Bertrand. I mean, I do support the Geopark in their ask for increase. Again, it's not even the cost of inflation. It's like half the inflation. But I think it is just procedurally wise. It may make more sense to first decide whether we want to renew the contract. Then we decide on the rate. I think just procedurally wise, it makes a little more sense. That's fine.
Yeah, so I'm just curious if a motion to defer would be adequate or appropriate at this time. I think it would be, because I think we're kind of one step ahead here, so I'll put that motion forward to defer. I have a seconder. Councilor Kirkcalka, thank you. Discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Okay, moving on to reports. 7.1 Investment Report dated January 11th, 2021 from the Director of Finance providing banking and investment portfolio information and to request guidance regarding 2 maturing investments in July 2021. I'd like to move this for discussion. Seconder, Councilor Kirkcalka. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Any comments by council? Councilor Howell?
So the issue or purpose on page 13 of this report says, this report is intended to inform Mayor and Council of the district's entire banking investment portfolios. On discussion with our CAO on the phone, I find it's incomplete. We don't have any idea of what's in our operating account month over month. As I understand, an operating account goes up and down as we collect taxes and pay things back, but we don't have any layout of how much money is actually in our operating account, which is part of our investment account. We get a percentage off of that as well. We also had some type of an agreement in place with the Lakeview Credit Union that is not in this report, that formed a lot of our investment decisions that we required. I also have a bit of another issue here that I don't quite understand. When we were looking at some of the interest on this stuff here, I went back and pulled I actually had our CAO pull me a report from 2019. And we're looking at the interest on page 17, specifically Lakeview Credit Union. In that meeting, we were told we were getting 3.25%. It appears in this that it looks similar to that it's an annual maturity date. Or interest is accrued annually, but it isn't. It's 3.25% for the term investment. So that means we're making 3.25%, including your compounded interest over 3 years, which is not a very good rate of return. When you look at the rate of return of the North Peace Savings and Credit Union, which is below it, we're getting 2.75% per year. So on the same equivalent, if we had had that North Bay Savings and Credit Union investment account in there, we would have been close to 9% interest we would have made over 3 years instead of 3.25 at the Lakeview Credit Union. And I wonder why that money is invested in the Lakeview Credit Union. And it may have to do with that agreement that we had, and maybe that's why we went for such a low interest rate. The other part that I don't understand is the Bank of Montreal investment of $5 million. So in my discussion with our interim CFO a few months back, we had discussed that we would be making a guarantee of 3% per year on the Bank of Montreal, and it was linked to the stock market, and we could possibly do better than 3%, but we were going to get a guarantee of 3%. It's a guarantee of 3% over 5 years. So we're getting like 0.55% interest on that money. So I think just looking at those types of things, we had these conversations in here. I asked those questions, are these annual interest rates? I know that's what we were told we were getting, and we are not. So again, we have mismanaged the District of Tumbler Ridge's money to some extent, and that falls back on everyone in this room at this point. So we need to get somebody in place to look at this and give us better advice than what we're getting, because what we're getting right now is doing an injustice for the District of Tumbler Ridge. We're losing out on hundreds of thousands of dollars in investment money, and it would take care of a lot of these issues that we have on the meeting tonight. You need an extra $100,000 for the firefighters? It would be there if we had the investment interest just in this one thing alone, with $5 million in BMO. So, for discussion, I think there's a portion in there that says that we would bring it to a financial advisor to provide the investment advice. And I think that's what we absolutely have to. And I don't know if that should go out to a RFP or RFQ or however you want to do that, but to some regard, this needs to go out of house. We need options to look at, to come back and say, these are the things that we need to lay out. And we need a full financial picture. We need to know where the money is month to month in our operating account, when the money comes in from taxes, and when our big payments go out of taxes, when we pay the government of British Columbia, when we pay for the police, when we pay for all that. We should have a better understanding of where that is, and that's important so that we don't use all that money up and then need to dip into something that's more of a longer term investment. In all the time that I've been here, I've never seen that we've ever had to dip into that other investment, so maybe it's time to lock that stuff up a little more secure. We have more money to invest as it is, so that's my thoughts on it.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Norbury?
Thank you, Mayor Bertrand. I think Councillor Howe makes a lot of very valid points. Nothing that, rather than repeat what he said, I believe that we should be seeking financial investment advice, as wherever we're dealing with taxpayer money, there are very strict rules due to the community charter that we have to follow. So we can't, we need to tread this line very carefully, and a financial advisor should give us that path so that we are not falling into error when we're investing taxpayer money. Because it's better to err on the side of caution in that regard, in my opinion. But yeah, we absolutely should seek financial advice.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments? Councillor Norbury?
Seeing no other comments, I'll move that council allows staff to find a suitable financial investment advisor to provide investment advice on the 2 investments maturing in July 2021.
Seconder? Councillor Majinski, discussion? Councillor Howe?
So will we have any choice or any decision? Like, are we going to look at, instead of we're picking one person and that's the person that our CAO and CFO have determined is going to do this for us and we're going to go at it that way? Or are we going to look at this in a broader spectrum that we're going to, have a look at what we have at the Lakeview Credit Union and find out what agreements we have in place? I don't think, discussing with our CAO, that she's aware of any agreements that are in place with the Lakeview Credit Union. That information desperately needs to be shared with her. And we have to have a better understanding and background of what those agreements were and how they transpired and how they play out. But to me, I want some choice. I want, this investment guy says we're going to do it this way and he can make it 6%. And this guy says he can do 3%. And this guy is whatever. This guy's going to give you a more secure background, but you're gonna be safer investments or whatever. I want some choice in the matter more than just we're selecting one person. So if that's the way this motion reads, then I'm okay with moving forward on it.
Yeah, from what I understand, Ms. Thompson, please correct me if I'm incorrect, but this motion is asking for investment advice for the 2 investments maturing this year. But I'm more so looking for overall investment advice. So I'm just curious the way this motion reads, would we still have to go to RFP to find a financial advisor? Ms. Thompson?
Thank you, Mayor Bertrand. With the information that's come back from council tonight as well, I do feel that a full review of our finances, in answer to the one question regarding how would it come back, I feel that we could do an RFP, request for proposals, and have it come back, because our investment policy says that it must be approved by council. So if we are bringing back different proposals that have come in, that would need to be approved by council. So that's the approach that I would take. I would bring that back to council to look at and to review and approve.
Thank you. And then as far as selecting a financial advisor, there will be a proper tender process on that?
Correct, and it would be approved by council as well.
Thank you. Councilor Gorkowka?
So just on that, would we have to word the motion different where it says instead of just the 2 investments maturing in July of 2021? When you listen to Councilor Howe talking about the overall picture, I think that's what we're looking for, not just those 2 investments that are mature. So really and truly, we're better off to look this one down and
Make a new one.
in my opinion, unless someone wants to amend it. I don't want to try amending it in the middle.
Yeah, I agree. Councilor Howe?
Yeah, and I think we could continue with this one, but we could also have a second motion that gives us a overall financial picture, clear direction on that, which includes the supplement.
I agree. I think, the priority is to, on these 2 investments maturing in July, but I think staff is aware overall what council's looking for, so I think this one is still pertinent, and I agree we should have a second motion afterwards. Any other comments? Okay, call to question. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Councilor Howe, did you want to go ahead?
So I don't like taking cracks at just building one, but that's the gist of what we want to do here. Is we want to have a total financial review. Is that for investment purposes? Total financial review for investment purposes. Is that what we're looking for as a council? I see heads nodding, but yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Go ahead, Councilor Howe.
Motion forward that council direct staff to conduct a complete financial review of our financial picture and investments.
Seconder, Councilor Lehman, discussion? You good with that stuff? Councilor Howe?
So and then just for a bit of clarity, I am interested myself in the operating account and for a better overall picture for council as well, so that we have a better understanding of when we get skinny in the operating account and when we're flush with cash. And so that's during tax collection season, and where do we pay it out, and when does the we get $2 million or something like that from the what's the name of that thing we used to get from
PRA?
Sorry?
Peace River Agreement?
Yeah, that's what it's called now, right? So when does that money come in, and does that come in lump sum? So a bit of a monthly breakdown of where we are. That would make, it would be important to see that, so that if we are ever getting low, I would think springtime is the time where we would be getting low. We collect the money in the summer, we spend it through the year. I would think it's springtime. So that would be better to correspond our investments at that time, so that if we did need money, it would be during a maturity date, so we could take the cash out rather than having to cash it in and then take the cash out. So that a portion of it's available for us if we need it, and if we don't need it, it flips right back into it. Rather than doing large sums of money, like $9 million that is up in 2 years. You can't touch it for 2 years. It should have been $1.5 million here and $1.5 million there. So a better financial picture by the month would be important for me in this report.
To see liquidity too, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments? Okay, call the question. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. 7.2, daycare spaces withdrawn grant application. Report dated January 11, 2021. The Director of Operations and Infrastructure advising the withdrawal of the grant application to the Ministry of Children and Family Development for the new childcare spaces. Recommendation, please. Councillor Norbury.
That council receives this report for discussion.
Seconder. Councillor Krukowka. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Councillor Norbury.
Thank you, Mayor Bertrand. It is sad to see that our application has again been held up due to issues. That being said, I think we still have a path forward here, and we can still get $1.7 million. I think we should be trying to investigate ways on how to bring that grant money into the community so we can build on it to build new spaces in our community. So we should keep trying. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. It is very unfortunate. There was a lot of confusion in this regard. But I think staff is well aware of the situation at the moment and much clearer picture on the actual application and the stipulations of the application. And I think we just need to start fresh again on this. Councillor Howe?
On page 22, it talks of a third-party consultant. Who's the third-party consultant?
Urban Systems, I believe.
Urban Systems, okay. Let's check it.
Is that correct, Ms. Thompson?
Thank you, Mayor Bertrand. Urban Systems completed the application for us. There was an architect, and I honestly can't remember their name right now, that had provided the initial costs, but in the first grant application, but Urban Systems did contribute to the application process for this go-around.
Thank you. Councillor Norbury?
To give staff some direction, I'd like to make a motion that that staff investigate alternative options for the daycare spaces grant.
Okay, seconder. Councillor Kirby, discussion. Councillor Norbury?
The reason why I just say alternative options, because there are a lot of options out there. We've had community members bring forward ideas. Hopefully at this point in time, people can get the word out to bring forth ideas, as well as we have a backup plan that was already created for us and just expanding off the building. Right? We have potential options there. Let's see if we can do it.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments? Okay, call the question. All in favor? All opposed? Carried. Thank you. 7.3, COVID-19 Impact Report. Report dated January 11, 2021 from the Director of Finance regarding the financial impact of COVID-19 and request for guidance from Council on the balance of the Safe Restart Grant provided by the province. Recommendation, please. Councillor Norbury?
For discussion?
Seconder. Councillor Howe? All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Councillor Norbury?
Thank you, Mayor Bertrand. Thank you to staff for this report. It is good to see the criteria for this money. When it came in, it seemed like, hey, we got the sweet windfall of $827,000. That's awesome, but now it seems like there are stipulations tied to it. We can see that, we've lost $400,000 in the last 9 months or so due to COVID. And with the province speculating that the majority of the population could potentially be vaccinated if they so choose, that could be seen as a good turning point for our pandemic. So I think it's not unreasonable to expect at least another 9 months, if not more, of reduced revenue. So, I think we just stay the course. We continue to put this money that we have to our loss in revenue as is. Unless there's, a major project that we see is needed, this money is needed for, we can just use this to buffer our operating expenses.
Okay. Thank you. Councillor Howe?
My question is was the question asked if the amount we lowered our business taxes by to try and save businesses and jobs in the DTR as a direct result of the COVID-19 pandemic eligible?
Ms. Thompson?
Thank you, Mayor Bertrand. If you look under governance considerations, we didn't specifically ask that question. However, it has come back from questions that have gone through from other municipalities in British Columbia asking a question. And it says that can the grant funds be used to reduce taxes? And the grant cannot be used to reduce 2021 taxes or keep taxes artificially low. And that would also apply into 2020 taxes as well.
Thank you. Councillor Howe?
So I read the information that you had on 2021 and you could not reduce taxes or get them lower, but I did not read the portion where you said that it did not work for 2020 taxes. So we did not ask this question specifically of in the grant. You know, we did not know, we didn't know how this would pan out. I just failed to understand why we wouldn't ask that question ourselves, rather than what is it a calling meeting that you guys had where you heard somebody else ask a similar question? Because I'm not really aware of any other municipalities or cities that did what we did. It was we were trying to get ahead of it. We made the decision before we knew any funding was going to come out, and we decided to lower this, and it's, to me, is completely different than lowering your taxes because you know the money is there afterwards, right? We did it to get out ahead of it, to try to save jobs and business. As far as I'm concerned, it did. And we actually got businesses that started during COVID-19 in Tumbler Ridge, where not a lot of other places did. We had a strong business community when we made that commitment to those citizens. But I just don't quite understand why we wouldn't ask the question. It's a real low-hanging fruit, easy one for us to pull $400,000, $500,000 out with.
Ms. Thompson?
Thank you, Mayor Bertrand. So we can specifically ask the question. There are, what it is your municipalities are able to submit questions by email. We chose the top 5 questions that came in. There is like 40 questions that have been answered, right? So we pulled this out of what was in there. We can specifically ask exactly, to get ahead of the game. However, the money is from 20 and 21, right? So we can ask the question, but we are anticipating that it's still going to be no. It's easy enough to ask a question and get a response back as well.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Norbury?
Thank you, Mayor Bertrand. When we look at the essence, and this is all interpretation, right? When we look at the essence of this, it's because of shortfalls due to COVID. I'm not going to rehash the argument of tax reductions, but that wasn't COVID. That was done by individuals. That was done by this council. It may be because of this or that, but it was our group made that decision, not COVID. COVID directly affected the closures due to mandates, the reduction of services that we've been able to receive income for, which I think is what this is meant for, and we can still do that. We can show that we are not in the red this year. We can still stay hopefully in the blue.
Yeah, I agree with you. I do think the question needs to be asked, but the way I read it and interpreted it is the impact of COVID, and we as a council chose to decrease the business taxes to, you're right, Councillor Howe, to try and get ahead of it and save jobs, and I think it was effective. But at that time, I don't see it as an impact of COVID. I see it as a progressive nature of this council. Councillor Howe?
Yeah, and I mean, the eligible cost says addressing revenue shortfall. That was a revenue shortfall for us. And let me correct Councillor Norbury's statement there. We absolutely did that because of COVID-19. We did not make this decision prior to COVID-19. We made this decision because of COVID-19.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Okay.
Do we have to put a motion on to make sure this question is asked, or?
No, I don't think so. Staff can take care of that. As far as guidance and direction, I agree with Councillor Norbury. I think we're still not out of the woods yet, and our revenue shortfalls this year are definitely going to coincide with COVID-19 as well. So I'm in favor of staying the course and using that money for those revenue shortfalls that were identified in this report. Councillor Howe?
So in the report, it says the community center estimated loss of revenue in the community center of $146,000. Does that include lost revenue from the golf course? Is the golf course lumped into the community center?
Ms. Thompson?
I'll have Ms. Schreiber answer that for you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. No, the golf course is a separate department, so this is just the community center.
But the clubhouse was included, I believe, right? Yeah.
Yeah, so clubhouse, absolutely, because that's easy one. There was a lease on it, and that's what we got year over year. But when we talk about the lost revenue of something else that brings in revenue, the golf course is a great one. Yeah, some people did keep memberships, but there was a massive decrease in the amount of people that were using renting carts, out golfing. I mean, that, to me, should be included in the report. It should be an area that they could find money as well. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I would think that...
That is a lost revenue due to
Something like
COVID.
that.
I agree. Yeah. Any other comments, Council? Okay. Moving on, 7.4, Investing in Canada Infrastructure Program, COVID-19 Resilience Infrastructure Stream. Report dated January 11, 2021, from the Chief Administrative Officer regarding the Town Hall emergency upgrades through the Canada Infrastructure Program, COVID-19 Resilience Infrastructure Stream, and support the project. Recommendation, please. Councillor Majinski.
Staff submitted an application for Town Hall energy efficiency upgrades through the Canada Infrastructure Program, COVID-19 Resilient Infrastructure Stream, and Council supports the project and commits to any associated ineligible costs and cost overruns.
Seconder. Councillor Kirby. Discussion. Councillor Howe.
So when council commits to any associated eligible costs and cost overruns, the cost of this project, correct, is $1 million, $950,000. So if we get zero from this grant or this program, then we're committing to do $950,000 in renovations to the building. Is that what this says?
Ms. Thompson.
Thank you, Mayor Bertrand. It's for us to apply for the grant, so it's just giving us permission to apply for the grant. It's just an application that goes in. So if we are not successful in the grant, this is just to say if we're successful in the grant, we get 80% from provincial government, 20% from federal, and any ineligible costs outside of our budget.
Okay.
But it's all based on the successful grant application.
So if there,
Go ahead.
so if there is not a successful grant application, we do not commit to doing this project.
Correct.
Okay.
Okay, Councillor Majinski.
Yeah, a lot of these provincial grant applications need a resolution from council before going forward, and I think that's just a first step in us, so I think it's very safe to say that we're not locking ourselves into $150,000, just to commit and say that we are gonna do this out of community.
Yep, for sure. Councillor Kirkowka.
Yeah, I'd just be curious though, when I read it, and this is some of the comments and questions there, if we are successful but on a very low scale, we could be accountable for a lot of the funds. I mean, if we only get 20% from federal and 15% from provincial, we're right now saying we're willing to cover all the other costs.
Yeah, so the project could change. The prices need to be updated since 2016, so upon successful application of the grant, then it will come back to council for the finer details. If we were looking to change the facade in some way outside of the scope of the grant, I think those are the cost overruns that council would be committing themselves to. Ms. Thompson, can you clarify?
Thank you, Mayor Bertrand. So the grant application, the provincial government is 80%, or sorry, the federal government is 80% and the provincial government is 20%. So if we're putting in a grant of just over $1 million, that's what they contribute. They're not going to come back and say, we'll only give you 15%. So the grant application says, what are your design fees, your construction costs, your contingency, and your engineering fees. So by updating these costs to 2021, that's what we would be putting in, and that's what would get done. Ineligible costs would be anything like GST, those things are considered ineligible.
Councillor Howe, did you have a question?
Yeah, just is this strictly to do with not changing the facade of the building? Like, is this strictly to do windows and insulation, or are we talking if we did the facade of the building and something else?
No, strictly windows and insulation. Ms. Thompson?
Thank you, Member Bertrand. So the reports that we previously had are for windows, and one is also to insulate and redo the exterior of the building. So what is being proposed and the costs that are being prepared are for a similar facade that we have currently.
Follow up?
Okay, yeah, just because, like, I remember the report that we had where they took the heat gun basically, and there was a little bit of leakage through the windows, but what ended up sticking out to me as the big thing for energy efficiency in this building is when we dug out around the basement of the building and put rock on the walls and put windows in the basements, and that's where all the heat was being lost through the building, is because it used to have banks on either side of the building of dirt that kept the heat in, and that to me was the biggest area where we were losing heat from what I remember from the report. So are we going to review those reports? That's the plan, that'll come back in front of council. We'll see these images that they shot again or whatever, and redo the insulation that way. Because, like, how do we redo the insulation on the outside of the building without removing the exterior of the building? Like, are we going in through the walls to get to the insulation? Like, so that would mean the facade's getting done, right?
I believe. Ms. Thompson?
Thank you, Member Trent. So what it would do is it would take off the facade, it would put the insulation on, and we would still do the stucco and wood siding. So we would extend, I think it's 2 or 3 inches from what the report had said with insulation, but then the exterior would be refinished the way it currently is.
Councilor Norbury?
Thank you, Mayor Bertrand. I think in terms of the facade, the community is very clear not wanting to change the facade of the building. that's not even a debate in my opinion, but I support the grant application, as years ago we had a review of all 3 buildings, and this building is what held up the capital project of fixing the fire hall, the police station, and town hall. I don't know how that just slipped by us for the last 2 years. We need to start getting going on these buildings, right? First town hall, then we got to get the fire hall and police station fixed up, because originally I thought, well, the fire hall needs buckets fixed, to cover the hole in the roof. But that being said, we got to start knocking them out. I mean, let's get this done. We have opportunity for grants. It's good to hear it's not we're committing $1 million. It's a grant, or we're not doing it. At this point in time, I'm in favor. Let's go for it.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments? Councilor Howe?
Just again, for clarity, I don't think we own the police station. That's a federal building, isn't it? Wasn't it Public Works?
My mistake.
I believe so, yeah. Public Works, yeah. Councilor Norbury?
Yeah, my mistake. Thank you, Councilor.
Any other comments? Call the question. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. 7.5. Bylaw number 584, Official Community Plan Review, report dated January 11th, 2021, from the Director of Corporate Services regarding reviewing the Official Community Plan. Recommendation, please. Councilor Kirby?
Thank you, Mayor Bertrand. I'd like to move for information.
Seconder? Councilor Kirkowka? All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you.
Not want any discussion?
It was voted to go to information.
I mean, you didn't give us a chance to, like, talk about discussion. Like, for discussion, that, like...
Before the vote. I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
But it was moved for information, so if we wanted...
That's correct, but that gives me an opportunity during discussion to say to somebody why I think it should not be moved for information.
Yes, yeah.
Otherwise, you just vote on it and I don't get to voice my opinion.
Yeah. Councilor Norbury?
I believe at this juncture, a person from the winning side can bring it back for reconsideration, and at that point we can bring it up for have a debate. Is that correct, Thompson?
Ms. Thompson?
1 second. Ms. Corville, do you?
Yes, that's correct, yeah. Councilor Majinski?
I was under the impression that when we do go for information and there's nobody that puts up their hand and say, I want a discussion, it's just to move the process along quicker. And then if there is something that somebody wants to bring up for discussion, they can put up their hand and discuss it. But under this assumption of just going right to information, we just move it along. But if somebody has something pertinent or some information to be brought forward, then they can voice their opinion at a time before it goes to a full vote.
Yeah, I was under the understanding that when it's moved for information, there isn't a discussion on that. But I could be wrong on that. Ms. Thompson, are you aware?
1 second, please. Ms. Tor will respond to the information or discussion option.
Thank you.
If you would like to move it for discussion, or, sorry, I didn't realize that was the question.
Councilor Krokowka.
I think what we're thinking is what happened was we missed the debate part. So we moved it for information, it was voted on by, or moved by Councilor Kirby, second by myself. We didn't debate going to information.
Discussion about that.
No debate in between before the vote. I think that's what's up for discussion.
Yeah, and it's my understanding that there isn't an opportunity to discuss that motion, but please correct me if I'm wrong. Pardon me?
You may discuss it
Okay.
between the moved and the seconded.
Oh.
Generally, when you move something for information, it's for information.
Councilor Norby.
I'd like to move that we bring back the vote for 7.5 for information.
Reconsideration?
Yeah.
Seconder? Councilor Majinski. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Councilor Norby.
So now that we are in the deliberation point, I believe that there are people that want to speak to this, so let's not receive this information and bring it up for discussion.
Seconder, Councilor Howell. Does anybody want to debate this motion before we go to a vote then? All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Councilor Howell.
Because I better have a good question for all that, bring the roll. So, financial budgetary implications, associated cost for the OCP review is $65,500 and will be included in the operational budget for 2021. What does that include? Is that hiring a consultant to do this, or is this for staff to review it and staff time and hours?
Ms. Thompson?
Thank you, Member Trent. It is for a consultant. When we get into an official community plan review, we do need a consultant that has those planning capabilities outside of what we are able to do in-house. So we do have a consultant, which is Urban Systems, in order to help us with a planner.
Follow up?
So, is that a guaranteed thing for urban systems, or is this something that goes out for a bid?
Ms. Thompson?
One moment, please. I'm not aware of all the discussions prior, because the OCP review has been on the plate for a little while here, so I'm not sure of what all the discussions are. Can I bring that back to you?
Sure.
Thank you. Any other comments? Councilor Majinski?
I had a question on when a recommendation is put forward and it's received for information, does that give staff the go-ahead to search out for this to go out to RFP, to have somebody come in and review and go through the whole OCP plan, or is it just have to be brought up again at a regular council meeting to be voted on then? Or if this just comes in as an information and then...
Yeah, I think this report is letting council know that the plan is to review our OCP. So to receive it for information is really just allowing staff to continue to go ahead. Yeah. Councilor Krokowka?
Yeah, I totally agree with your worship. The only difference is they're showing you the impact to our budget discussion. It's going to be an operational. So it can be pulled out then. I mean, it's not going to be detailed, but I mean, that's what the report's saying. It's going to be an operational budget. So I mean, every time you discuss it, budget time, if we're not happy with the amount, or that gives Ms. Thompson a chance to come back to say that it's going out to an RFP, or the reason it may not go out that way.
Councillor Howe?
And also, it may be a bit confusing here that this is the first time I've ever seen it done in all block capital letters, say, be received for information. Like, it was like, this is what you will do, you will not discuss this. Every other one that we get says you get this for information or discussion. Why the change? Like, do you know what I mean? Like, I don't know.
Yep.
Not one to like get backed into a corner. I like to discuss something if I want to discuss it, so.
Yeah, I think it was just oversight and really just staff's opinion that this is to inform council that this is coming forward, I believe. Any other comments? Councillor Lehman?
Thank you, Mayor. Is 65,000 a normal cost for something like this?
Ms. Thompson?
Thank you. It is a very long process for OCP. It hasn't been updated since 2012, so we do have a lot of information that needs to be updated. Plus, we need to add a section in there for rural subdivision, and it is just a lot of procedural work that needs to be done that has to fit in with legislation. So it is a significant cost, but it's very, very hard not to go at that rate because of the time that is required with the planner that we have to work with.
Thank you. Councillor Kirby?
Thank you, Mayor Bertrand. I like the fact that our CA put this in our agenda tonight, knowing that it's part of our strategic plan and gives us a heads up on what's coming down the road. And it does say in issues, it says plans for the upcoming. That's why when I met with Ms. Thompson today, that's why it says receipt for information. It's just for our reading and so that we're kept up to date.
Yeah, I agree. Any other comments? Questions? Okay. Moving forward, or Councillor Norbury? Okay, moving forward, 7.6, Tumbler Ridge Community Forest Corporation to Limited Partnership. Report dated January 11th, 2021, from the Chief Administrative Officer regarding TRCF's request for Council's approval to support a structural change within the TRCF organization. Recommendation, please. Councillor Howe.
I'd like to read the ultimate recommendation, that council maintain the Tumbler Ridge Community Forest as a corporation, and that a tax lawyer be engaged to provide additional information on income tax implications.
Seconder. Councillor Kukalka, discussion. Councillor Norbury.
Thank you, Mayor Bertrand. At this point in time, I am not in favor of the alternative to the recommendation. We have quite a bit of information on the positives that this restructuring can bring. And as we're moving into the fiscal year, I feel that this may cost the community an additional tax penalty if we continue to wait, as well as charging the community more lawyer fees to look into what we already know. I understand the importance of not making rash decisions, but at this point in time, I believe that we are delaying it to delay.
Councillor Howe.
Absolutely not delaying it to delay. Delaying it because we don't have the information to our questions. What is the definition of geographical boundaries that in that the area the community forest encompasses? Can anybody give me that answer? What is the definition of geographical boundaries?
Councillor Norbury.
I can happily bring you up a map that has the geographical location of the community forest. There is a defined boundary of the community forest.
And some is within the district boundary and some's outside of the boundary. Councillor Norbury.
That is correct, in that we do have forest tenure outside of the municipal boundaries. So this is the concern. If we harvest, which we do have plans to harvest, hundreds of thousands of dollars, actually outside of the community boundary, we would be taxed at a higher rate because we harvest there. This also includes investments we have outside of the community, which we have done as our benefit of being a corporation and not a municipality.
Councillor Kukauka?
Yeah, so I guess my question, and maybe Councilor Norrie will be able to answer, tax implications is a question or concern I have. It hasn't even been asked. It states in the report they didn't get a chance to reach out, or they did reach out to the tax lawyer. And the lawyer that they talked to doesn't deal with the tax part. Is there any thought or chance that the district ends up having to eat some of the tax money for the community forest because of this? That would be my concern, that taxpayers would be taxed on the part that you guys go outside and cut, because we move it to the different term, that it's actually implicated on our financials through staff. And we end up paying a tax penalty on the district.
Councillor Norbury?
So when we're talking about taxes, that would be considered liability, tax liability, and I think we did get that answer. You know, the community forest is responsible for its liabilities, so its tax liabilities. And we did get that briefing note from KPMG that if we had to guess a number, it would cost approximately $55,000 per year for the community forest to remain as a corporation. Like that's what we're talking about. This is why we're moving towards it. Like there's no change in corporate structure. The district is still the sole shareholder. The board stays the same. Our policies stay in place. The appointments of directors stay the same. Nothing changes except for this. We move to this limited partnership, which reduces our tax liability. This change has been flagged as automatic in the government system because this is what they want community forests to move to. There's no tricks. There's no subtlety of trying to get away from the district. Not that I'm saying that anyone's saying that there is, but this is seen by the government as the way community forests should be moving forward. And that's why it is automatically flagged as approved in the system. So, I mean, putting this off could potentially cost the community money because we're going to be taxed at a higher rate.
Community forest will be, yeah.
That's
Yeah, but I think in the KPMG report here, I think they are asking or advising that we should be looking for a tax lawyer advice as well. I remember reading that, but I can't seem to find it here at the moment. So I don't think, I tend to agree with Councillor Howell. I don't think it's the delay to delay. I think we need to get all of our ducks in a row as far as liability and advice in this regard. Councillor Majinski?
The alternate recommendation on the floor, it also says here that maintaining some of the community forest as a corporation. So that kind of hinders us from trying to
At this time, I believe, yeah.
But we could also just do the tax lawyer thing as a recommendation and then still continue on.
Yeah, I believe the alternate recommendation is really putting a hold on this move forward and until we get the tax lawyer advice in this regard. I don't think the first part of the alternate recommendation is really setting us in stone as leaving it as a corporation. Correct me if I'm wrong, Ms. Thompson?
Thank you, Mayor Bertrand. At this time, it's to leave it as a corporation and seek information from a tax lawyer, not that you start a partnership change while seeking information. So it was just a little bit of clarification to say, leave the community forest as a corporation and seek the tax implications from a lawyer rather than look at starting the partnership change and then finding out that information. So it's to leave it as is and do that.
Thank you. Councillor Howell?
So two portions that I still don't have a complete understanding on is I understand there's about 10% outside of our geographical boundary. Is that correct?
I'm not 100% sure. Councillor Norbury, would you have that info?
I can't exactly say on the amount that is outside of it. I haven't done a percentage, but it's the concern is when harvesting is done and you gain that income outside of it. We're not always doing harvesting within the community district of Tumbler Ridge and outside. There may be some years, depending on the ability to build roads or when the trees are best harvested because there are better windows for woods. So I can't say for sure, but we're not always doing an equal 90-10. It could be 100.
Follow-up, Councillor Howe?
Yeah, and because we don't have that information, I would like that information, because to me, our head forester should be the guy that could compile that and could look at it and say, you know what? Yeah, we probably should go log this 15% over here, but we're not gonna do that because of the tax implication of going and getting that extra 5%. So our forester should be able to look at it and say, yeah, we're gonna lose out on $10,000 in revenue here, but it's also gonna cost me $60,000 in a tax implication if I go and do it. That's the forester's job, to have a better understanding of this. We as a council don't have that understanding, but we certainly don't have the information in front of us tonight to get that understanding. And the other point is the amount of money that's invested in a bank or financial institution or whatever. It says, so investing in an entity within your boundary makes sense as long as the shares are domiciled in the boundary and you're conducting business in your boundary, etc., you're going to be fine. So instead of us letting the community forest invest our money into the Royal Bank, RBC, which I had a concern with a long time ago, because I thought it was outside of the MFA, that money that's reported in the district of Tumbler Ridge is allowed to be invested by another corporation that doesn't have to follow the same rules that we have to follow in the Municipal Finance Authority. Don't understand how that was ever able to happen. How much money are we talking about, which is not in the report, that does the community forest have that they have invested? Because there's points in here that says they made $57,000, 9% being interest. So like, how much money do they have? How much money are we talking about that they have invested?
From what I understand, the trust was set up with $2 million, I believe. Councillor Norbury?
Thank you, Mayor Bertrand. So, there's a couple of things we need to unpack with, Councillor Howe's comments. Firstly, the community forest, as it is a corporation and as a limited partnership, has the opportunity not to be bound by the community charter. We've looked into this. It is bound by the Business Corporations Act, I believe it's called,
Yep.
which gives us the opportunity to get investments at a higher rate of return than a district can, which is smart. We're just talking about being upset about getting 1%. We're getting 6, and we have $2 million in investments with the Royal Bank Investment Group. It's not the Royal Bank, it's their investment branch. And if we don't harvest next year, we're going to see likely $120,000 that we can put into the community, which will be hindered by potentially $55,000 because we can't make this change, right? That's one of the biggest concerns, is that we don't have all of the weight that a sawmill like Canfor or West Fraser has, and that we have to harvest every year. We can sit back and say, what's not good this year, we're not going to harvest, and then we can just wait till next year. So that means our revenues are $120,000 from the RBC, which is directly outside of the municipal boundaries. And then our ability to provide grants to the community is hindered. And so, the community forest is a great way for us to get those returns on investments that we normally can't, because they're not bound by the community charter. And yeah, as I said, with that, what's the amount of time this is going to take? Will it impact this year's revenues for the community forest? And then how much money is this going to cost us in lawyer fees? We're throwing money at something that generates money. There's no tricks here.
No, I completely understand that, but we are missing the tax implications for the district, though. We're seeing all the benefits for the Tumbler Ridge Community Forest to move to this, but we're not seeing and really getting the picture and the story told about what the implications are after the limited partnership goes for the district's tax liabilities as well. Councillor Majinski?
Thank you, Mayor Bertrand. I think we would be doing ourselves a due diligence by getting a tax lawyer involved, just so that we have that security and the knowledge going forward. Like, what if there's something we miss, or our investors missed, we can't be 100% certain. So one extra piece of advice or information that we get, even if it is a lot more money, but it's going to help us in the long run and down the road, then I think we should seek the legal advice.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Kirby?
Thank you, Mayor Bertrand. Just a question to put to council is if we were to approve the or make a motion for the first recommendation, but add that all the costs associated with the transferal from corporation to limited partnership be paid for by the community forest.
Yeah.
That could solve delay. And we can still look into that, but otherwise, then this, we're going forward and all further expenses or anything coming forward for this comes out of the community force, not through council or district.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. You're commenting on the original recommendation?
Right. Just this.
Yeah, I definitely see what you're saying, but I think, in any sense, lawyer advice and the fees for lawyer advice is well worth the money, unfortunately. We certainly aren't lawyers and we certainly don't know tax law, so I definitely think getting that information is important. Councillor Howe?
So just to Councillor Norbright, because you're probably the best one to answer the question, so I had the question here, why couldn't the community forest give excess cash back to the DTR invested on behalf of the community forest? And you said that you guys are able to invest it in different things and got a 6% return where we're getting a 1%, 1.5% return. So that would totally make sense to me why we wouldn't want to do that or take the money out of the community forest, which I was not aware of. That's more information that I wasn't aware of in here. But could the investments, instead of being domiciled in Kamloops with the RBC, be in the Tumbler Ridge Lakeview Credit Union and be on site? You are open to different investments, obviously. So you could invest within the Lakeview Credit Union, and then like that $2 million, let's say you got 5% of the Lakeview Credit Union and you make $100,000. Is that $100,000 because it's invested in the community, in the area, on site, as compared to the money that's invested in Kamloops is off site?
Councillor Norrie?
Thank you, Mayor Bertrand. Thank you, Councillor Howe. There's a couple of parts to that answer. I'll bring up the most recent process in which we chose our investment group. We put it out like the district does. We put it out to proposals. So we asked different organizations to come in and talk to us, in which we only got back RBC is what the board chose. From what I understand, this was unfortunately before my time, there was discussion with the Lakeview Credit Union on investments in that area, and previously it was seen as like it wasn't a favorable option at that time. So there's a little bit of history there. I think it is important to support our Lakeview Credit Union, and we are going to be reaching out to them specifically to see options. But there is a time when you need to make a decision, and we're talking about $2 million. You can't always sit and wait for someone to come to the table. We already have somebody who's willing to do this for us, right? So at that time, it was indecision was the wrong decision. Moving forward, our purpose is to maintain profitability, and I believe in supporting local as much as possible. So we are going to be looking at local options with time. This is the choice that we had. If I'd like to continue, we're concerned about a tax lawyer, but our fact sheet is from KPMG. They're a tax accounting firm, aren't they?
Auditing.
Auditing firm.
That's where this report came from, is the auditors, yeah. But they do corporate tax as well, different divisions, yeah. Any other comments? Councillor Howe?
Yeah, so I'm just not clear on that, Councillor Norrie. I'm just trying to understand that. I get you guys had the money and you wanted to invest it and you made a decision and great. And to tell you the truth, it's about getting the best bang for your buck. And if that means that they're gonna give you 1% of Lakeview Credit Union because you're supporting local as compared to getting 6% of the Royal Bank and Kamloops, I'm okay with you doing the 6% of Kamloops through the Royal Bank. That's fine by me. What I'm asking is if the investment was within the community, would that money that's generated from the interest be considered onside or offside? In the report, it says the money from Kamloops is considered offside or outside of the agreement. So that's part of the 10%. But if the investment was within the community, would it be okay?
Councillor Norbury?
Yes.
Okay.
Any other comments? Call the question on the alternate recommendation. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. So, Ms. Thompson, when are we going to see this again? Do you know, like, we need to contact the tax lawyer for advice, but is this going to come forward again for discussion?
Correct, thank you, Mayor Bertrand. So I will contact a tax lawyer, and once I have information from them, and I have a bunch of questions that I wrote down as well as you were having your discussion, have those questions answered, then I will bring that back to council.
Okay, thank you. Okay, moving on, 7.7, review of District of Tumbler Ridge Emergency Services, report dated January 11th, 2021 from Director of Protective Services regarding Tumbler Ridge Emergency Services and costs required for the 2021 budget. Recommendation, please. Councillor Kirkowka.
Move for discussion.
Seconder, Councillor Majinski. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Councillor Kirkowka.
Thank you, Worship. Wow, what a great report. Mr. Curry, thank you very much. Through Ms. Thompson. I guess my only question would be, and I have talked to Chief Curry just before the meeting, but I prefer to ask you to be open. So in other provinces, when both of your departments are called out, they're able to charge the insurance. I don't know how it all works. I didn't do the paperwork for doing that. But if they went into to an MBA and it was myself in the ditch or whatever, they'd cut me out, it would be a bill to my insurance, somehow billed through them. There would be, I won't say cost recovery because that'd be the wrong terminology, but there's been a expense. There, you know, they would give so much money for each vehicle on scene if it was needed, plus personnel. So I'm curious if Mr. Curry has looked into that for the province first.
Ms. Thompson.
Thank you, Mayor Bertrand. Chief Curry, are you able to answer that?
Your Worship, Council. Take that for a second. So very much appreciate the question, Councilor Kirkowka. In a little bit of time that I've had to research tonight, because I wasn't aware, it does look like the municipality can charge a municipal fee for services rendered both inside and outside the community. It does not specifically say that you can charge to an insurance company. We can set a fee schedule up however the council wishes to see fit. A couple of the caveats to this is that you are going to run into situations where people are going to be underinsured. People are not going to have insurance. In the province of BC, for motor vehicle accidents outside of your municipality, Emergency Management BC covers funding for X amount of dollars for every apparatus and manpower as well as consumables on scene. We may be getting into an issue of double dipping at that point where we're going after the provinces as well as going after an insurance company for services rendered. Within the municipality, it is up to council. It's done by bylaw. We can set whatever fee schedules we want. In the cases of instances of people not having enough insurance or not having insurance at all, we can impose the charges to either the property owner and or the vehicle owner themselves. Thank
you, Chief. Councillor Kirkowka, follow-up?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Curry, for your comments. My question would be back again. I'd like to see us reach out to the insurance companies to find out if that's how it's done. Instead of us charging the owner of the vehicle, and I understand what Mr. Curry is saying that maybe they don't have insurance or not enough. There's probably a clause there that states what could happen there. I think it's an avenue to check, and it's not about double dipping or not agreeing with a paid on-call firefighting. But that, like, I used to be a volunteer firefighter in Alberta. When we were paged out, we were actually paid volunteer firefighters. My understanding reading the report is money comes to the district and it goes into their society, and that's how the rewards are. Don't think that there's anything wrong. I think it's great what they do here in our community and how they support the members. But again, like on the Alberta side, you had the choice to take that money if you wanted. You know, back then, I think it was $1,000 tax deductible before you had to pay tax on it. So most guys and most firefighters, girls and boys, would take up to $1,000 and then give the rest back to the association because they didn't want to pay taxes on it. So I think it's worth reaching out to the insurances, reaching out to a volunteer fire department in Alberta, see how it's done. You know, I'm not saying that we don't still agree that with the report that's in front of us from staff. I mean, I think it's a phenomenal report. It breaks it right down. I mean, I want to make it known for myself, and then, I mean, I would hope Councillor House speaks to this, and maybe the rest of council should too as well. There were some comments made in here from the membership. Is one of their concerns if being paid on call or paid firefighters is they possibly lose their benefits of the past that we've, you know, had debates about. And in my opinion, personally, I will never vote to take those away from them. I mean, that's a thank you very much for doing what you do, put your life on the line for the residents of Tunbridge, and leaving your family at home while they eat supper and you're out on a call. So I just want to make that known to the membership. I know I talked to Mr. Curry earlier about it, it's my opinion of it, but you know, maybe council should weigh in there to make sure that these members understand if we go to something like this. I know my personally, I will never vote.
Councillor Howe?
Number one, I'll weigh in on that, and I agree as well. I would not look to take that away from the firefighters at this time. I think it's well deserved, and this is a little outside of the scope for the reason why we put that in place. I have no intention of taking that away. But I do have a question: is can we recoup any money? Now, Councillor Krakelka was talking about insurance companies. I'm talking about the province. Can we recoup any money through the government for switching to this service level? Because it seems to me that our fire department sure does a hell of a lot more than just fires, right? They're always out there doing the first responders. I think was the number one thing. They had 64 calls for first responders. You know, are we able to say, you know, we've reached a point where we've reached our breaking point where we can't continue to do this municipally funded for the province anymore because we don't have enough ambulances in the area or enough people to help us out. So our volunteer fire department is now going to charge you for this service. If you need us to come out to do these, we're going to charge you for it. And when I talk about charging for it, I'll just hold that question. I'll just leave that one for a second.
Yeah, Ms. Thompson, can Chief Curry elaborate on what we charge the province, please?
Thank you, Member Tran. Chief Curry?
Your Worship, councillors, to my knowledge, charging the province for services rendered is not something that's normally done. There is no requirement for the District of Tunbridge to have a fire department whatsoever. We can say, nope, we don't want to have it, everybody's insurance rates go up, etc. There's no requirement for us to do this. What we can simply do is scale back the service level of what our fire department offers. This is something that has been put in place for years when we established the service levels for the first responder program. There's nothing saying that we have to provide that service. That is something that can be simply said, no, we're not going to provide that service because it is the leading cause of cost associated with the department. When we're getting into things about cost recovery, etc., it really limits people because then people aren't going to use that service. People aren't going to call 911. People aren't going to call when they have a smoke alarm that's going off or a carbon monoxide detector that's going off for fear that they're going to get a bill from the municipality should they have to have that looked at. And that's kind of the focus at fire departments, not just in BC, but even across the province, or across Canada rather, have gone to. They would rather that you call that in the name of prevention and proactiveness than it is to actually get a bill at the end of the day.
Thank you. Follow up?
Yeah, and so more from the province I'm looking for funding for. We're changing our service level to offer on-call, fire on-call. I'm looking for money from the province for that. Is there anything out there for that? Any funding, anything available? Not looking to charge the individual for calling in a 911 call or a gas call or whatever. Not looking to do that at all.
Ms. Thompson?
Chief Curry, are you aware?
So, not in terms of actually cost recovery from the province. We can do this by way of grant funding. There's a lot of UBCM grants. There's provincial grants in terms of volunteer and composite fire departments that you can get for equipment, training, other operational costs, but not for the paid on-call portion.
Okay, thank you. Any comments? Councillor Norbury?
Thank you, Mayor Bertrand. Just to weigh in on Councillor Pelka's original question, I don't think I'm absolutely not willing to take away their VIP memberships if we give them an on-call position. I mean,
regardless whether they receive a stipend or not, they're still risking their lives when they go out to these dangerous calls, as well as experiencing a trauma. So, back to one of the recommendations we have here is to bring forward a potential budget increase for paid on call for our budget deliberations. I think that is something we should at least add to the budget deliberations. Being a volunteer has costs associated, and I don't think anyone should have to associate costs to be a volunteer. Like, being a volunteer firefighter means you have to be available at all times. You can't go on a hike down to the down to flatbed pools or go out of town certain weekends because you're on call. You may be called in the middle of the night and you're late to work the next morning. There are real costs associated to being a volunteer firefighter. We asked what could help our local fire department in recruitment and retention. This is something I believe they came to us with. I think we should honor that request. We should be bringing this forward to the budget deliberations.
Absolutely. So I'll move that council forward the budget increase for a paid on-call firefighting service to the 2021 budget deliberations. Seconder, Councillor Krkalka. Discussion. Councillor Krkalka.
Yeah, and I read the report pretty good, and again, I'll pass off to Mr. Curry in regards to the report. I don't know when we discussed it, but we should have an opportunity at least to feed it back to staff in regards, there's some other concerns that were brought up in regards to the association part of it. And I think I'd like to hear back more on that, in the regards that, it's because, and then maybe it's when we do our budget, and I'm fine with that. But I also want them to realize that I'm not looking at trying to take away their awards money and all this. Like I'm really not. So I just want to, I know it says in there about getting back and going back to the membership and stuff like that. And, maybe this should be an opportunity that we ask staff to go back to get more clarification from members if this does come into budget discussion. Because it could be approved in budget discussions without maybe chance for input from staff to the membership. And I think we should have that information when we go into budget, so that we can make sure that we're not taking away, some of the extra money the district puts in for their banquets and their awards and whatever else they may be doing. I think it's great service, valuable service to our community. And I just want to make sure we don't lose that part. Just because they're being paid, that we all of a sudden we're not going to give them a bit of money to be able to buy, yearly awards or whatever they do with.
Yeah. Ms. Thompson, can Chief Curry elaborate on the discussion with the membership prior to this meeting, please?
Thank you, Member Khan. Chief Curry?
In your worship, thank you very much. So as part of this process, I actually did put out a survey to my membership. I do not make this operational decision, I don't take it lightly. We've gone through this, we've seen, as in my report, we've seen this fall on its face, and with catastrophic results. Based on the results that I did get back from my membership, the leading concern was the VIP passes, and I know I can speak on behalf of all of the firefighters, and I know they're appreciative of the fact that it is not council's intention, based from what I'm hearing tonight, then to eliminate the VIP passes. Having those discussions, the association would change significantly, or potentially could change significantly, by making this paid on-call change. Included in the financial costs associated would still be a line item in the fire department's budget, so that banquets, awards, etc., those things would still be maintained. Maybe not to the lavish extent of what they were, because we were getting significant amount with low numbers, which equals X more dollars per person. But it's still going to be there. Things like having a banquet. We may not have a fire department golf tournament where we have everybody in the RCMP and everything like that, but we need to maintain that camaraderie, and it's definitely my focus that those things still have to be maintained. Being a firefighter for 15 years, I know the value of that in terms of putting your hands, or putting your life in someone else's hands in the pursuit of trying to protect somebody's property. So that is still definitely going to be a focus. That is not going to be changed. It will maintain that. I know that some of the other memberships, some of the other members have concerns with the potential of losing the volunteer firefighters tax credit at the federal level. There are workarounds around that. It was a low number that felt that they would be impacted by that, but it's still an impact nonetheless. What we can do to do that, I'm not sure of right But I want to make sure that I want to guarantee council that they have been consulted in part of this. This isn't a recommendation from the association that's saying we want to go paid on call. This is a recommendation from me saying we've done the same thing for 15 years trying to increase membership, and it's literally the definition of insanity. We keep expecting a different result and we need to do something different. This is being led by not just what our department does, but what many departments around the province are leaning towards when they're finding that volunteering, especially for firefighting, is not the same as what it was 20 years ago. The spirit of protect thy neighbor for the sake of just doing it because it was the common good isn't there. Now, you can say that's a generational thing. You can say for whatever reason that's kind of gone away. Compensation seems to be the working theory. And when you have an individual that may be working for minimum wage, now the fact of taking that wage away to respond to a fire when you're having to actually choose from a paycheck or helping the fire department out. By going to a paid on call model, we eliminate that. In many cases, some people actually are making more of a wage by providing firefighting services rather than just minimum wage.
Thank you, Chief. Councillor Norbury?
Thank you, Mayor Bertrand. Chief Curry, I know you mentioned the potential for conflict. If we get this, we might lose that. I hope that if there is ever a concern of losing what you already have, you bring it back to this council, because I don't think we should tell our volunteer firefighters to maintain a on-call salary shouldn't cost you benefits that are sorely needed when you bring out. I hope the association can recognize that. It's not my intention to take away anything that they already have. If anything, they are under-rewarded. We need this service. We need to reward our volunteers that are risking their lives to save property and life.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think it's all of council's intention to try to promote and recruit new members. We're certainly not wanting to take anything away. It is an invaluable service and very appreciative of it. Councillor Howard and Councillor Majinski?
My question is, we have line item in our taxes that goes to, like, not protective services, but it goes to, like, leasing. Like when we pay our residential taxes or whatever. Is that something that we could add to the taxes? That if we wanted to recoup this $100,000 or whatever it is, 80, could be 100,000 potentially when they get full roster or whatever, on our tax notices that we give out. Could we just add something on there, like?
Ms. Thompson?
Thank you, Mayor Bertrand. I would like to look into that to see what we are able to put on as levies for taxes. So if I can get back to you on that, I can do that.
Yeah.
Follow up?
And then I guess maybe another question would, has anybody looked into the fact, would insurance rates for the homeowners change? To me, this sounds like a better group. You have more people ready at the helm and they're paid to do the job. It's quite different from a volunteer position. Would we see the average homeowner insurance rates change?
Ms. Thompson?
Chief Curry?
Your Worship, the councillors. So just to correct Councillor Howe, it really doesn't change the format of the department whatsoever. When you're talking about volunteer and paid on call, they can be the exact same thing. The only thing is you're getting paid versus you're getting a stipend. Really, the training is still the same. There's really no difference in the amount of time that you're there. It's just a label, for lack of a better term. What would change would be going to career. So as soon as we go to a career department, or we actually would apply to the fire underwriters survey and have a change in that, and then that would be taking us to the next level. That's where we would see the benefit. And that could be as simple as having one paid firefighter on call 24/7, 365. So in that, and I'm spitballing here, you're looking north of 500,000. You have to have 4 firefighters by the time, or 5 firefighters for relief, etc. So, gotcha.
Thank you, Chief. Councillor Majinski?
Thank you, Mayor. I've actually been privileged to be attending a lot of the Christmas parties for the fire department, and a lot of the times they have awards for hours attended for various events in the community and outside the community. Instead of going to an hourly rate for a volunteer, could there be a correlation between hours volunteered as a bonus instead? Instead of somebody having a tax burden on them, so they have a good paying wage, but they also don't want to add this onto their taxes as another source of income. Would there be the possibility of doing a bonus, a monetary bonus, every year for your volunteers? Has that been looked into?
Ms. Thompson?
Thank you. Chief Curry?
Your worship, I think the best answer to that is you're going to get taxed either way. Regardless if it's a bonus, regardless if it's a wage, you're going to get, whether it's a monthly stipend, a yearly stipend, however it is, it's going to still be taxed, right? Or at least it should be based on report. We're not trying to hide it. We've gone through this before. It's not the fact that the firefighters really don't want to get paid. They don't, the fact that they're going to get paid, it doesn't matter. They're doing it for the ones that we have right now are doing it for the sake of doing it. What we're looking for a paid-on-call, what I'm looking towards a paid-on-call model is to recruit and act as an incentive for more people. We've, out of the 16 people that I have right now, I can be fairly confident that I'm going to lose, probably one a year, if not more. I know that I have some senior people that are going to be out the door in short time, right? It's trying to keep those numbers and continually refresh them. This year was a good year. Even with COVID and the pandemic, we were able to hammer recruitment and try to come up with new ways to try and get people in. And we've got, some younger people, which is great, but at the same time, younger people don't usually stick around very often and they're going to go. And we would rather train them while we have them and then let them fly the nest as well. So it is more of an incentive based than it would be for a bonus.
Follow-up, Councillor?
Yeah, and the reason I say bonus is it sounds a lot more enticing when you say, yeah, I got $2,000 this year for volunteering, opposed to I made $16 this year per hour volunteering. I think a bigger, grander, yeah, I got this kind of money just for volunteering this year. Like, I do it out of my own time, and I don't get it for a dollarly wage, for an hourly wage. I do this, and this is the thanks I get from our community and from our fire department. I think that might be a better law factor sometimes in some people's minds as to, hey, they do care about us, and that's why I stick around every year.
Yeah, I'm sure the statistics at the end of the year, AGM would show that kind of information. Councillor Norbury?
Mayor Bertrand. But I mean, all roads lead back to Rome though, right? You're still getting the same amount. You can get some now, you get some later. It's really up for debate. I personally would rather see it bit by bit over time because it can help my monthly expenses, that may be impacted because of my volunteering. Right? At the end of the day, it's not something I think is will hold up the potential opportunity that Chief Curry has given us today.
Mm-hmm. Councillor Kirby, then Kirkauka.
Thank you, Mayor Bertrand. I think it's long overdue to go to a paid-on-call for our emergency services. It's not like volunteering to go on a basketball trip or do a bottle drive or, I think I'm in favor of this moving forward.
Thank you. Councillor Kirkauka.
Yeah, I know this man, and Chief Curry put in his report, but recruitment. Somebody has to leave a business in town that they are getting paid and their only job, and they haven't doing the fire department because they hear from their buddies how much they're out during the day. And they could be out that money from work because maybe work won't pay them. Some businesses are willing to let an individual leave for a call and you still pay them. So I do think it helps with recruitment with some of the local businesses in town. People maybe will join knowing that maybe if the company isn't going to pay me, at least I am in a bit of income to help support they have family. So,
Oh,
I
I
think it's a
agree.
great recruitment tool. I've seen it too used in Alberta. I think it worked. Worked in the department I was on. Like I said, most guys donate the money back to the organization anyways. Because they didn't want tax implications, and it's actually tax write-off when you donate it back. So that's up to the members.
Okay, call the question on the alternate recommendation. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. All right. Discussion items. Ms. Thompson, any questions from the public?
Thank you, Member Trent. I do not have any questions tonight from the public.
Okay, thank you. Resolution to closed. That the meeting be closed to the public in accordance with the Community Charter, Section 91C, E, and J as follows. C is labor relations and other employee relations. E, the acquisition, disposition, or expropriation of land or improvements, if the council considers that disclosure could reasonably be expected to harm the interests of the municipality. And J, information that is provided, or prohibited, or information that if were presented in a document would be prohibited from disclosure under Section 21 of the Freedom of Information and Protection of Privacy Act. Seconder. Councilor Kalka, all in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. 10-minute recess, please.
And so what the other, like, I didn't want to go back, but like, we're also using our equipment, our fuel, our